All right, so hello everyone. Ray Hamilton is here from Invisawear. He's co-founder and CTO, and he's going to be presenting today on startup fundraising. So thank you so much for being here, Ray. Looking forward to your presentation.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. Start sharing my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Just trying to move this over. All right. You can still see?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, but we're seeing your presentation mode. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Oops. Let me try that again. All right, how about now?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to talk about some different funding sources that are going to be available to you that we have done a lot of research taking advantage of, especially early on. It can be a little overwhelming with all of the different types of funding sources that are out there, and then navigating which ones are the best fit for your business, because obviously it wouldn't make sense for every type of business to take advantage of all the different types of funding that is available. But the first one that I would like to talk about is pitch competitions. This is definitely the best place for most of you to be able to start right now, this early on. There's so many different pitch competitions out there that you can research, and a lot of them specialize in certain categories. I know we mentioned earlier some that focus specifically on like environmentally friendly. There's some that focus mostly on biotech. There's some that focus on like software as a service or software in general. So there's plenty of them out there. You just have to do a little bit of research. I think early on, Raj and I did a lot of research, and I think we went out and pitched at like 19 different pitch competitions. We ended up helping raise us over $20,000 to $25,000 in just grants. And this is one of the best things you can do because, like I said, it's a grant, it's non-dilutable funding. It's basically just gifted to you. So that's one of the best types of funding to take advantage of, is because you don't have to pay that money back in any way. It's really just investing for your business, whether you can use that in prototype development, or if you can use that for like any type of manufacturing, if you can use that to pay for any sort of engineering services or legal services, if you're looking to file for like a patent, or if you're trying to establish your business, you can take advantage of it any way that you can, which is great. All of you are already here because of you won your first pitch competition with DifferenceMakers, which is amazing. So I'm going to talk about that. Accelerators is another big one. These are great. So like there's plenty of business accelerators that focus on trying to help you jumpstart your business and accelerate your growth and put you on the right track to success. So we can talk about that. There's also bank loans, which is more traditional types of funding. This can be a little bit trickier to get, especially as like a startup early on. More traditional funding, a lot of banks like to see like 2 years of revenue, operating expenses, and so on. But there's certain types of bank loans that you can take advantage of. I'm happy to talk about that. Friends and family is another common place to start for a lot of people, because they are the people closest to you, they know you, and they're willing to invest and try to help you to succeed. So that's a common one as well. And then institutional investors. So this could include anything from angel investors, venture capital, private equity. So we can talk about all of that stuff as well. But all of these different types of funding, there's so many different ones available. And there's also some that I didn't even mention here, like government grants is another one, like SBIR funding and so on. So a lot that you can take advantage of, and it's kind of overwhelming. So I'm happy to walk you through the ins and outs of what we've learned. So like I mentioned, pitch competitions, the best thing you can do really is to just do some research on some local ones in your area to try to find like which pitch competitions are right for you. And that's also going to be a great place for you to go, and you can just network at the events, even if you aren't like presenting or pitching, because it's going to be great networking for you to kind of get your feet into that space. A lot of those entrepreneurs, you can ask them like, oh, is there any other pitch competitions that you know of? Probably a lot of them have heard of them, or there's a lot of people that go to those events that are looking to recruit more people to come to their events. So I highly recommend taking advantage of this. Like I mentioned, it's a grant fund. So DifferenceMakers is the first pitch competition you guys already won. I highly recommend E4All. E4All is headquarters in Lowell and Lawrence. They have an accelerator, but they do pitch competitions. I think they have like an all ideas pitch competition. I'm not sure when it is, but I would highly recommend you take advantage of that. I think it's usually in the fall. So Raj and I both decided to enter for their pitch competition. I think we ended up winning like $2,000 early on after DifferenceMakers, which was incredible to take advantage of that. They also have a great mentor program. They're a business accelerator too, so I can talk about that more in depth on the future slide. Mass Innovation Nights is another one. They do monthly events. They focus on innovation, like a lot of tech events, and it's mostly in like the Boston, greater Boston area. So they came to UMass Lowell's Innovation Hub in downtown Lowell, and they hosted an event, and it's really fun. They usually select like 10 companies, I think, to come, and you'll have a table, and then you can basically talk about your product, maybe have a poster out, maybe you have some prototypes out, and people just come and try to learn about new innovation going on in that space. So it's a really fun event, and then they usually turn it into a competition. So there's like a voting that they do online, and you can recruit, you try to ask people to vote for your product to win. And then usually like the top 4 or 5 companies end up pitching for the event, and then you get the chance to win some grants through them. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that. And I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about other pitch competitions from them, because they've hosted, I think, over like 100 events over the past like 7 years or something. Boston New Technology, that's another one. We actually heard about them at the Mass Innovation Nights award, I believe. So we ended up going to pitch at Boston New Tech as well afterwards. SBA's Innovate Her is another one. I highly recommend looking into that. And then I don't know if it's a pitch competition, but I believe we got a grant funding from NSF. Like UMass Lowell has a partnership with the NSF. They have the I-Corps team where you can team up with a faculty member. So we were able to get like $3,000 funding through them. And that helped us with developing our first round of prototypes. So there's a lot of different ones available. I highly recommend you take advantage of looking into them. Accelerators. So like I mentioned, E4All, it's a funny story with E4All. So we applied to go to their pitch competition. We ended up winning some funding, and then we found out that they're actually a business accelerator. They host 2 different accelerators every year. It's 12-week long program. They meet twice a week. They do programming sessions where they educate you on how to grow your business. So anything from customer discovery, your business model canvas, but they also help you with budgeting. They help you with financing. They'll bring in industry experts every single session to talk about all of the different business activities, marketing, social media, legal advice, funding as well. They'll talk a lot about funding. It's really funny story. Raj and I were on the fence about even going to apply for the business accelerator. And the main reason for that at the time was because to us, it sounded almost like a lot of work and a lot of time going to be taken away. And to us, it almost sounded like it might be a distraction because we were focusing on engineering development at the time, trying to take this product and actually develop it and bring it to market. And we got nudged from Holly and a couple of people at UMass Lowell said, no, just apply. I highly recommend you take advantage of it. And I could not even believe how fast we grew in those 12 weeks. Within the first 2 weeks, I remember we had accomplished so much. And I remember just thinking, I can't believe we even questioned doing this program, because it honestly helped us grow so quickly. And I to this day still say, I think we grew the fastest in those 12 weeks with eForall than we did in the entire 6 years of starting the business, which is crazy to me. But the mentoring program they have, so they help pair you up with mentoring. It's actually really fun. They do mentor matching. It's almost like online dating, where you basically, or like speed dating with mentors. So you'll get a couple minutes to sit down with each mentor, and they're basically just volunteering their time. A lot of people have like 30 years of experience working in their industries. They specialize in a certain type of thing, which is great because for us at the time, we had a lot of expertise in engineering. That was our background, but we really wanted help with more marketing and business advice. That's really where we were lacking. So it was great because we got paired up with some great mentors that helped us with those types of things that we were kind of struggling with at the time. So the mentor program was incredible. A lot of the accelerator programs have that. And then at the end of it, there was another opportunity to pitch, which we ended up winning $5,000 at the end of that program, which was incredible. So definitely can't recommend eForall enough. I think everyone should definitely look into that, because it could be huge for your business. And then after we did eForall, we also applied to go to Mass Challenge. So Mass Challenge is the world's largest accelerator. They have offices like all across the world. And basically every year they have $1 million that they give out. And it's non-equity related. So they give out $1 million dispersed over, I think it's usually about like 10 or 15 companies. So it's like $50,000, $100,000 that they'll give away to companies at the end of the 4-month program. That one's a little bit more intense. There's a lot more mentors involved. There's a lot more programming involved. We did the accelerator. It was located in Seaport. And we tried to take full advantage of everything, all of the resources that they had, which is incredible. So we were going in every single day of the week, trying to go to as many sessions as possible. So that was a very busy time for us because we also had a lot of work to do, trying to develop the product as well. So we were a lot of late nights back then, but highly recommend looking into Mass Challenge. It's one of the most competitive accelerators to get into too. A lot of people joke that it's like more competitive to get into Mass Challenge than it is to get into Harvard, with the amount of applicants that they get. So we were super happy when we found out that we got in, and it's a great program. I highly recommend you guys check it out. But the mentor program, I think, is the #1 thing that you can really take advantage of. Having that valuable insight from some people. I can't tell you how many mistakes we've avoided just because we've listened to our mentors. Always try to take everyone's feedback, and then you are the ones that kind of decide how to move forward with what makes sense for your business. But I think one of our biggest things of what has helped us succeed is just being able to take in that feedback and listen to the experts and listen to like what they're trying to tell you and understand to try to avoid your mistakes. I remember one of the biggest mistakes that we avoided at the time was we were looking for mechanical engineering help. And it was really funny because my background is in hardware, Raj's background is in software. So we developed like the technology, she developed the app, but we really needed like, how do we design the way the jewelry looks and everything? We didn't have that expertise. And we met someone who owned a mechanical engineering firm, and it was great. We were like, this is exactly what we need. And he gave us like a quote. It was almost like $100,000 in his services. And we could not afford that. We were like, nope, that's not possible. So there was an option to like basically give him 10% equity in the business, and he'll do all of that for free. Essentially, we wouldn't have to pay him. And to us, we were like, that's incredible, $100,000 worth of services. we can't afford that. So this is great. We told our mentors about it and they said, absolutely not. 10% of your business, that's huge. Also, you don't even know this guy yet. Like one of our mentors suggested, like, you really want to date someone before you get married to them, which is kind of true, because like when you get into business with someone, it's basically like a marriage, like it's legally binding and you want to make sure that they're the right person. So thankfully we didn't go that option. And I think it was great because we didn't end up working with him long term. And that would have been such a huge mistake that would have really hindered us from being able to grow and succeed. So highly recommend just listening to your mentors as much as you can, and then internalizing all of that feedback. And at the end of the day, you are the one that is going to be able to make the decisions and you know your business the most. Bank loans. This is another interesting option. So I remember we never thought bank loans was going to be something that we would even qualify for, because a lot of businesses want to see, a lot of banks want to see your business operating for 2 years with revenue before they're willing to take the risk of giving you a bank loan, which is, that can be a little difficult, especially early stage. But we found out about a local bank. It's called the Lowell Development Financial Corp. And they are essentially a consortium of banks in the Lowell area. So it could be like Enterprise Bank, Lowell 5, Salem 5. A lot of different banks will essentially pool in funding to help fund this. And they really focus on economic development of businesses in the Lowell area, or in the city of Lowell. And they have a couple different programs. So we found out about one that they had $100,000 loans for, I think they called it the Incubator Fund, which at the time we were working out of UMass Lowell's Innovation Hub. So it was focused on businesses that were working out of there. And essentially, because all of these different banks are helping fund this one fund, that makes it less risky for them. So that allowed them to have these risky loans that we were able to apply for. And then in partnership with UMass Lowell, we actually worked with the new venture development office, and we were able to get a recommendation letter saying like, hey, Invisawear has gone through DifferenceMaker's boot camp. They worked with their mentors, they've graduated, they went on to E4All, they worked with mentors through them. And then they also have gone on to Mass Challenge. So they're going through the pipeline, they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing and listening to the experts that are guiding them. So we would recommend that you would fund this business, because the bank essentially relies a lot on the university for that. So we were able to take advantage of that. That was the first, one of the first checks that we got, which was incredible. So we're super grateful for that. And we found out about that through E4All, the accelerator that we were going through. One thing they do ask is there is like a personal guarantee that can be associated with a lot of bank loans. So it's just something to keep in mind. A lot of banks will look to see if like you are willing to kind of back this, because if they're taking such a huge risk, they will also want to see that you're taking a risk. And it can be kind of stressful, of course, to do something like that. But to us, we were super passionate about getting this to market and trying to help save people and protect people. So that was something that we were willing to overlook and say it was worth it for us, which helped us get more funding in the future as well. So friends and family is the next one. So this is a common way that people try to get funding in the beginning. But this can also be very risky at the same time. So don't accept money from people in your family that are relying on this for like their retirement funding. So for us, we sat down with every single friend or family that approached us. Every single person came to us and they said that they wanted to invest. So it wasn't even something that we like asked them for, which was kind of funny. But they were willing to invest in us. They were super passionate about the product. And they knew that we were passionate about it as well. So they were willing to take on the risk, but we did sit down with every single one of the people that were willing to invest. we spent them probably 2 hours at least with each person going through the entire pitch deck. We had a whole 40-page business plan as well, where we lined out everything, all of our goals and plans and strategies. And then we also told them that there is a risk with this, with any investment. There is, of course, a risk. So we made sure to tell them, like, please don't be investing your retirement funding, because we would hate for that to hate for something bad to happen if there is a risk and then they're relying on that. So just make sure to explain that. And also don't just take money and then write something on the back of a napkin like, oh, okay, like I'm going to give you X amount of your business. You definitely want to talk to a lawyer and have a lawyer drafted agreement with the investment and what that entails. For us, what we did early on is we took advantage of what's called a convertible note. So these are great tools. Instead of doing like an equity investment early on, the problems that can arise with doing that is because you have to set a valuation of the company, which is really hard to do this early on for you because you might not have a lot of assets yet. It's really just like an idea, but this idea has the potential to turn into a multi-million-dollar business. So it's really hard to set the valuation. So what a convertible note does, it's great because it allows you to delay that whole process, and it allows you to allow people to invest in your business at a discount. So there's usually certain terms where it acts as a loan and then it converts into equity at your next round of financing, which is probably going to be 1 or 2 years down the road, where you have more assets and more time and more value in the company for you to set that valuation. So we did like a pre-seed round where we raised friends and family, and then we had some private angels that kind of came in as well on that convertible note. And usually there's terms, so it acts as a loan, so there's like an interest rate on that. There is a maturity date on that as well. And then there's also a discount rate. So usually when it converts, it will convert in at a discount instead of future investors that will pay a higher price per share. Because those early investors took such a big risk, it allows you to give them that incentive using that discount rate, which is great. And then there's also a valuation cap, which is essentially like you set a cap for how valuable the company can be at the next round. And if it's valued at higher than that, then they get a bigger discount. The next funding opportunity you have is institutional investors. And this can look very different. There's all different types of institutional investors. So we talked to a lot of different ones. There's angel investors, which could be someone who is a high net worth individual. They typically can invest anywhere from a couple tens of thousands of dollars up to almost $1 million. And this could look a little different too. So there's some private angel investors who are just one high net worth individual, or it could be an angel group. So there's a lot of angel groups in the Boston area or in San Francisco, New York, a lot of major cities. They have groups of high net worth individuals that all essentially have a stake in the entire fund, which allows them to invest a lot more money into businesses. So that's more institutional type angel groups where they can invest up to about $1 million. And it's their own money that they're investing too. So that's a big difference between some other institutional investors because they're taking a big risk by investing their own money. Whereas another one is venture capitalists. So venture capitalists, they usually have a portfolio of other investors' money. They go out and raise money from other people, and then they'll use that fund to invest into companies. And it's typically a lot more money. It's at least $1 million, a lot of them, venture capitalists. There's some early stage that can do less than that. But typically they're looking for very high impact businesses that are going to scale to massive, massive growth. And they're going to expect big returns on that as well. And there's all different types of venture capital firms that specialize in fintech or consumer products or drug or biomedical companies. SaaS companies, there's all different types of venture capitalists. And this is one of the most rare types of funding too. Like not every business is cut out to be funded by venture capitalists. Like if you're just a small mom and pop shop and you're planning to open a store, you're definitely probably not going to be raising venture capitalist funding because that's just not the type of scale that those investors are looking for. And we did a lot of like networking, trying to navigate, like learning about all the different types of institutional funding out there. And we learned early on that it was really difficult for us as a consumer product. We were talking to a lot of investors, and the biggest problem we always ran into was they typically wanted to see more traction. They would say with consumer products, they're just so risky, and they typically like to see more traction first. So they wanted to see us having more customers before they were willing to invest. And for us, we were very frustrated by that. It was almost like a chicken and the egg problem, because you need money to develop a product in order to sell it to get more traction. So how are we supposed to get the money to develop the product and get to market? So that was like a big problem we faced early on, was trying to raise our first round of funding. And we actually were approaching more institutional investors before we ended up raising like a friends and family round, which is where we started with that. And our first round was a pre-seed round. So it was almost like it was a bunch of different ones. So we started with friends and family. We also got the bank loan. And then we also found some private angel investors that were willing to invest because they were very passionate about the product and the idea behind it. And we just did constant networking, and we never gave up. I think that was like a big thing that a lot of investors, they like to see is like, are you going to continue with this? And that was one thing that we were able to overcome because we were so passionate about it, and we just kept working. You know, we just kept telling ourselves, what if one day we help save someone's life? Then all of this will be worth it for us. So that was one thing that we struggled with a lot early on, and we just kept telling ourselves and how passionate we were. It helped us overcome such a problem. Some key things to keep in mind with fundraising is only raise money if you need it. You don't want to be going to raise money if you don't actually need the funding, because you're going to be giving up a lot of your business away with either equity or something. So don't raise money if you don't need it. And you want to be getting in front of the right types of investors that are also passionate and interested in investing in companies that are in your space. Be prepared to make sacrifices. So like I said, we were willing to kind of personally back the bank loan, which was a big risk that we took early on. And it definitely paid off for us. We're super grateful for that first loan that we got. And we've been saving lives ever since we launched the product, which is the best part of what we do, which is amazing. One thing you'll also want to do is put together a business plan. So it's really funny, like we put together a 40-page business plan of all of our goals and strategies and how we were going to get to market and all the marketing that we were going to do to sell the product and how we we're going to develop it. And it's funny because investors want you to go through that exercise of developing your business plan, but I don't think a single one of them are ever going to read it, because I don't think any of ours ever read the 40-page plan, but they really want to know that like you went through that exercise, because it really helps you understand the core values of your business, and it helps you understand how much money you're going to need as well. So like I mentioned, like we went out and got multiple quotes from all these different suppliers, all of these different key partners that we were going to be working with. And then that helped us figure out exactly how much money that we needed in order to develop the product and get it to market. So I think we needed $140,000 to get the product to market, which we ended up raising over that. And one thing to keep in mind is that you're always going to need more money than you think you will. So you're always going to have some unexpected costs down the road. So I would recommend adding or even doubling the amount of money that you think you're going to need, because you're definitely going to need way more than that. There's so many different costs that you're going to run into in the future. But you definitely need to put together a pitch deck. That's the number one thing that investors are going to want to see. Is they're probably going to ask for your pitch deck. Even before that, they might ask for an executive summary, which is essentially like a 1 page of what is your business, what's your product, and summing up like your team and everything all on 1 page. And that's another important thing, is you want to find the right team. So the team that you're going to be working with, it's like basically almost like a marriage. You're working with that person and you're making big decisions. So you want to make sure you have the right team, and that's really what investors are investing in. They typically look at 3 different things. They look at the product. So what is like novel about your product? They also look at the market. So like how big is the market? Who are your customers? And then they also look at the team. And the team is the number one thing that is most important to them, because you can have the wrong product for the right market, but the team is really what's going to sit there and figure out, how do we make this a successful business? So they can help basically transform the product into what is actually going to be the right product market fit. Whereas you can have the right product and the right market, but if you have the wrong team, something can go wrong down the road. And that's really what they're investing in is they're investing in your team. So just make sure you have the right team that's willing and passionate about what you're doing, working on this. So that's the essential funding opportunities in a nutshell. I'm happy to take some questions for a little bit now, and then I'm also happy to walk through afterwards our presentation as an example of what we use for our pitch deck to help us raise money. But we can take a break and answer some questions right now for anyone that would like.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just wondering, I know for our project, we need, we want to get FDA approval, and I'm not really sure how we would go about raising funds for that, because I know FDA approval costs tens of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So what are the exact costs? Like, how do you know how much money it costs to do that? And what are you paying for? Is it legal fees that you're paying for to get those approvals? Like,
it's just a lot of the money going into this is clinical trials. We need to raise money to get the clinical trials and the studies.
Okay. I do know there's a DifferenceMaker team, I think, that has gone through the FDA approval process. I think it's non-spec. Did non-spec get FDA approval, Holly? Do you know?
Yes.
They did. I recommend reaching out to them. They're a prosthetics company. They were doing 3D printing, and it's custom prosthetics, and they spent a lot of time going through the ins and outs of the FDA approval process. I'd recommend maybe getting in touch with them. They're a DifferenceMaker alumni. I'm sure they'd be willing to help give you some advice.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'll look them up on the DifferenceMaker site and reach out to them.
Sure.
So I was going to ask, you mentioned with VCs, like there's a bunch of different ones that specialize in different things. And like, where do you, is there like a platform that you can research this all on? Like, how do you accumulate a list that you feel like is specific to your niche?
Great question. So I would recommend, there's a nonprofit organization called the Capital Network that focuses on connecting founders with investors in the Boston area. So they'll host a lot of events, multiple times a month actually, where they basically will bring in either investors or lawyers or even entrepreneurs to come give talks and presentations, where they'll do educational workshops to talk about fundraising. And then usually there's like a lunch where you can kind of sit down as like an informal mentoring style, where you can do Q&A and talk with these investors on an informal basis, which is great because that allows you to kind of get in front of an investor without having to like do a formal pitch, which is usually really hard to even like do that. And then just ask them questions about like, hey, do you know any investors that are interested in investing in like social media that focuses on mental health or any sort of mental health venture capital firms? They would definitely be able to guide you and kind of make recommendations because they know the whole industry. A lot of them, they know each other. It's actually a pretty small world of VCs. There's really not like, I wouldn't say there's like thousands of VCs. So I'd recommend reaching out to the Capital Network. They do events all the time. I think some of them are free. If not, I think they also do memberships. And I think Lowell has like a LEAP program where you can, if you're like a business in Lowell or associated with Lowell in any way, they might be able to get you like a free 6-month membership to the Capital Network. I know we got that way back when because we couldn't afford to go to the events if they were like $200 or something. So I'd recommend reaching out. The city of Lowell has the Economic Development Office. I'm happy to make like an intro for you there if you'd like, see if you might qualify for that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
Thermo Exa.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. And thank you, Ray, for the great presentation and a very helpful information. So I wanted to ask you, you never mentioned nothing related to patent and legal stuff related to Invisa. May I ask if you get involved on any of this legal stuff? Did you have to file a patent, and how was the process? If it was already out there, your idea, how do you went around it? Yeah, could you please share more about this?
That's a great question. So we did struggle a lot with the patents actually early on, because we did speak to a lot of people about whether or not we should file for a patent application. And it's actually pretty interesting. We got a lot of mixed feedback. A lot of people that we talked to were like, oh, this seems like really common. There's a lot of like existing panic button products out there. So it's already kind of been invented before. We also did like a lot of research, and there was like a lot of random panic buttons that were similar to like Life Alert being branded to younger people. So we would constantly get discouraged anytime we found out about like a new product that kind of like almost was doing exactly what we were doing, but there was always something missing. Like a lot of them weren't really jewelry, or they weren't stylish. It was basically like another ugly panic button being developed for like your phone. And we would research like if they had any patents, and we would get discouraged when we found like they did have a patent. But patents are really interesting and tricky. We also talked to lawyers. I would recommend talking to some lawyers as well about whether or not you do have something that is patentable, because what really needs to be done is what makes your idea and your product novel compared to what's existing out there, because that's really like the claims that you're going to get from the USPTO office. It needs to be novel in order for them to approve whether or not it is patentable. So basically, we ended up deciding that we did have something novel. For us, it was like our power management techniques with the product that allowed it to be a long-lasting battery to alert friends and family in an emergency. And we ended up filing for a utility patent. But the way we started was we talked to lawyers. They helped us kind of identify like existing products and whether or not we did have something patentable. And then we worked with them to file a provisional patent application. And essentially what that does is it starts the timeline for like, okay, I came up with this idea. These are some of my claims. It's not the actual patent that will be filed, but it basically like gives you like a start date of like, okay, this is when I came up with this, in case other people down the road come up with something similar. And then you have 1 year to file the non-provisional patent application. And that is like what actually is going to go through the approval process with the USPTO office. And it usually takes like 18 months, I think, for you to like even hear back or get approval. It takes a long time. And it's very expensive too, to work with like a legal team to do that. And there's different types of patents too. So the one I mentioned we filed was a utility patent application, which is basically, it's more complicated. It's basically like our product as a system, how it works. But there's also design patents. So like you can patent like the exact shape and form of like a certain design, and that being novel. That one's a little bit more simple of a patent, and it usually takes like only 6 months to get approval. But I would recommend just looking at existing competitor products on the market and looking up those companies and then looking up their patents. So I imagine like Google probably has a lot of patents in this space for their like Nest thermostat. So I would maybe work with a legal team, but you can also do your own research early on to try to see like what patents they have, and if they do have anything that does have what you're looking to do. Just might help you save some money in the start rather than paying lawyers to do that. But that's what I would recommend for you guys. Definitely talk with a lawyer.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. And can I ask another question? Do we have
Sure.
time?
Yeah.
All right. So how was the investment part before having a patent and after? Does that influence on investors' decisions to, raise money?
It definitely does. Like patents, that is your intellectual property. So that is something valuable to a lot of investors. It's not really a requirement. Like you don't, like a lot of investors aren't gonna like not invest in you because you don't have a patent. But it is something that they do look at. It does add a lot of value to the company. But for us, like we had filed our provisional patent application at the time when we raised our money. So we explained that to all of our investors, that we did have intellectual property that we were filing for.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right.
Awesome. Let me, can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Go through this pitch really quick.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, no problem. So this is our pitch deck that we use to help us raise $3 million. We've gone through 2 different fundraising rounds. The first round we did was for about $500,000. That was our pre-seed round, which consisted of the convertible notes and the bank loans. We got actually 2 bank loans in that first round. And then we went on to raise additional funding in our seed round. And that was more like in some institutional investors in combination with some follow-up investments. And then we also got some credit lines from our bank. We're Invisawear. We make smart jewelry and accessories that could save your life. And our product stems from the idea of what would you do if you or someone you loved was in an emergency and was being attacked? Obviously, you'd want them to call 911 or someone close by that can come to their aid. But realistically, if you're in an emergency, you can't just say, hey, pause 1 minute, let me call 911 or call someone close by to come to my rescue. Obviously not. You don't have nearly enough time to do that in an emergency. Sadly, every 90 seconds, someone in the United States is attacked. And out of the 157 million women living here in the United States today, statistics show that 1 out of every 5 of them will be assaulted at some point in their lifetime. This is highly unacceptable and it needs to change. That's exactly why we developed Invisawear. Invisawear is smart jewelry and accessories that allow you to instantly alert friends, family, and police in the event of an emergency. It's designed to fit discreetly into a variety of different styles, such as necklaces, bracelets. We have keychains for men, and even fitness bands and scrunchies. The way it works is super simple to set up and hassle-free. All you need to do is purchase a product, and once you get it, you download the free app onto your phone, and you can set it up by choosing up to 5 emergency contacts, so you can have friends, family, colleagues, roommates, whatever you'd like. and then you just pair it once to your phone using Bluetooth. After that, you never have to worry about it again. It simply just runs in the background. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need help, you would just simply double click the back of the charm, and that instantly sends a text message to up to 5 people with your GPS location, lets them know that you need help. There's also a free and optional 911 feature. We're partnered with ADT, which is the #1 name in security, which allows us to also notify 911 and police in the event of an emergency with your GPS location, and have their trained agents available 24/7. Invisawear also works internationally. We recently launched a major partnership with a Canadian company. They're called TELUS. So they're a huge company in Canada that we expanded to globally. It's a big distribution deal, a multi-million-dollar distribution deal we're very excited to announce. But we also work in over 200 other countries as well. It just does not contact local police and authorities in those countries. Existing products on the market exist. Most of them are big, bulky panic buttons, such as NIM or ROAR. And some of the biggest differentiators for us is that you can choose from a variety of different styles. Like, you're not just tied down to that one device. You can choose from a necklace, a bracelet, a scrunchie, a fitness band. So we have multiple different styles. It's much more discreet. This is a little bit older, but we don't require subscriptions, but we did launch a premium subscription recently with ADT. Has some premium features that are great. Some of them you might have seen go viral on TikTok, but we launched a video calling feature where you can stream live video and audio with an ADT agent, and that records that as evidence during an emergency. We've gotten a couple 20 million view videos on TikTok. People really love that feature, so we try to promote our premium subscription offering. But it works directly with 911 through ADT. Not all existing products do have that ability. The Apple Watch we don't consider them a direct competitor. Technically, you can contact 911 using your Apple Watch, but it's not really very discreet. And a lot of our customers actually have an Apple Watch and an Invisawear, which is designed specifically for your safety in mind, and it's much more stylish and customizable. So we don't really consider them like a direct competitor. Our target market, we're part of the smart personal safety and security devices industry, which is currently valued at $20.8 billion globally. And it's growing at a compound annual growth rate of 8%, which is a healthy growth, which is great. A lot of that is driven by existing products such as Invisawear. Personal security is becoming a big concern. Some of our biggest customer segments are actually real estate agents. This was something that was surprising to us that we learned after we launched. So a lot of real estate agents are showing property to strangers. And unfortunately, there's been some horror stories that have happened where people get kidnapped or even murdered, which is super horrible to hear. So there's a lot of safety concerns in that industry for real estate agents. College students is another big one that we have, where people are obviously going out late at night, walking to and back to other people's dorms or apartments that are off campus. So a lot of college students, that's our biggest customer segment as well. And then seniors is another big one. So people that don't want to wear a big bulky panic button. It's really funny, when we first came up with this idea, it happened after a scary situation that Raja experienced, and she went online to try to find safety products, and her everything was a big bulky panic button. She said that her grandma's in her 80s and she'd rather fall and not be able to get up than to be seen wearing something so hideous. So why would anyone want to wear something like that? So that's kind of how the idea kind of stemmed for us. So there's plenty of seniors out there that are in the similar space. They don't want to wear a bulky panic button. We have a lot of senior customers as well. So traction to date, we first got started by launching an Indiegogo campaign, a crowdfunding platform. We set a goal of $20,000. We ended up doing more than double our goal, which was incredible. And we're one of the few campaigns that actually shipped on time on our expected timeline. We've gotten national press exposure. We've been on Good Morning America, Rachel Ray, WBZ, CBS, NBC News. So we've gotten a lot of great press, which is incredible. Revenue to date, this is actually very outdated, but we just crossed over 10 million in lifetime sales, which is very exciting. So we're super proud of that announcement. We're almost at 100,000 units sold to date. And success stories, we had a girl that was actually in a car accident. You might have seen it on the news. She got into a really bad car accident in Lowell during a winter storm, and she spun out. She couldn't call for help. She lost her phone, and a bunch of people stopped nearby. They tried calling 911. It was a dead zone, and she had her Invisawear keychain that her aunt got for her just 2 weeks prior. And she was able to use it to call for help. And she reached out to us and said, "Thank you so much for saving my life." We got to meet her. It was a really sweet moment when we got to meet her, but it was very emotional for us as well, because like I said, this was like the first life that we saved. All of the hard work, all of those late nights was all leading up to this big moment. So we were very emotional when we found out that we helped save someone's life. So that was something. Her family actually reached out to all the news outlets in Boston, and we were on Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, and it was crazy. We sold out of 4 months worth of inventory in like less than 2 weeks. So that was a huge success story. We're very happy. It was very conflicting, bittersweet. Like, we felt bad that had happened to her, but we were also very happy that it was able to help her and help save her life. This is our team. So my background is in hardware. I did a couple jobs at Dell EMC, and then another tech company focusing on Bluetooth research. Raja, his background is in software. She got a dual degree in electrical engineering and computer science. She previously worked at Amazon, working on programming wearable devices before anyone knew what an Apple Watch was. So we worked really well together to develop the prototypes early on. This slide's also outdated. This is some of our team members. We now have 17 employees, all ranging from customer service, operations, marketing. We have a lot of marketing people, quality assurance, engineering development, and so on. But we also have an amazing advisory board that we work with, that are industry experts with over 30 years of experience in their industries, helping us basically guide us through this process, with anywhere from manufacturing to legal, to marketing, startup strategy, and then high tech. And like I mentioned, we are patented technology. We actually have 3 patents that are issued. And this slide's also outdated, but we partnered with ADT now to work with 911, which is incredible. And then we also have a trademark on our brand. Exit options, the most likely scenario someday could be that we could get acquired by a big partner in the security space, such as ADT or TELUS, which is another potential down the road that could happen. But typically investors like to see a return on investment someday. So that is a very likely scenario that could happen someday. Another option could be to license the technology and work with jewelry retailers. So someone like Pandora, we can partner with them. They can come up with their own designs and we can license the technology to them. We have more success stories. This is one of our favorites. This woman bought it for her mother-in-law right before Christmas because she had they said it was just in time because they had an emergency within a week of getting it. They said it was a godsend for saving her life. And if it was ugly, she wouldn't have worn it. So this is just one of the many 5-star reviews. I think we almost have 1,000 5-star reviews on our website now, which is incredible. But we also got national press exposure. Anytime someone reaches out, we always like to promote it and try to get in the news. So that is it. That's the presentation in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, but thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. That was awesome. Both
Yeah, thank you, Ray. That
presentations.
was so good. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Ray, I have a question. A lot of our students are busy with courses, they're doing DifferenceMaker, some of them are in clubs and sports. So very busy, involved in all these different great things at UMass Lowell and also outside of UMass Lowell. So as obviously like a founder now, but you know, back even when you were a student, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to maybe maneuver different jobs and things that you were involved in? Or maybe you can talk a bit too about you know, sacrifice in ways, because I know just talking with you and Raja, you did give up a lot to pursue Invisawear. So would you mind just touching a bit upon those points?
Yeah, no, definitely. A lot of sacrifices for sure. So for us, we were kind of just getting started. And time is obviously like one of the most crucial things. And it's really hard to get that. Honestly, we didn't really sleep that much early on. We did a lot of sacrifices. We were up till like 3, 4 a.m. working 17 hours a day, a lot on this to get started. And it's mainly because we were really passionate about it. To be honest, like it didn't really feel like work because we're so passionate about it. I truly do stand by this, but if you're really passionate about something, you'll never really work a day in your life. So what you guys are doing, it's amazing. And I do see a lot of the passion behind what you guys are doing. So I just want to highlight that. Make sure you are really passionate about it, because it's really what's going to make it all worth it down the road. But we also, it's very hard to graduate college and then tell your families like, hey, I'm not going to go get a job and I have an engineering degree where I can make almost 6 figures. Like I'm actually going to work on this and make no money at all. So we did make a lot of sacrifices. We did face a little bit of scrutiny from our families. And it was really hard. I will admit, like we were running very slim. We couldn't even afford a pizza one night. I remember Raj and I were working at the iHub and we both were so hungry. We ended up just going home because we couldn't even like afford to order a pizza and because we were so starving. But it honestly, like I wouldn't have it any other way. It was so worth all of the sacrifices that we took to basically spend and devote all of our time working on this. Like I said, I didn't sleep. I still don't sleep. So that's something that probably won't go away. But I mean, you are literally building something from the ground up. So I've worked for companies that have like over 70,000 employees. I've worked for a company that has like 5,000 employees, and I worked for a company that has 2 employees. And it's definitely, you are so much more involved in every single aspect of the business versus like for a company that has like 70,000 employees, you're just a small cog in the machine and you can barely even like see what the actual value you're contributing to the end result of the business. So it has so much more value and impact being involved in all these different activities. And it's also exciting to be able to learn about everything. So I would just say, like, just make sure you're passionate about what you're doing, and just at the end of the day, remind yourself the end result of why you're doing what you're doing. And that's really what's going to help get you through those sacrifices.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray.
Of course. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I'm just curious, like how did you guys pay yourselves before you started getting sales?
That's a great question. We didn't take any money for at least a year, which was very hard and difficult to do because all of the money that we were winning from these pitch competitions, we were using to develop the prototypes We didn't spend a dime either until when we first started raising money. We didn't spend any of it until we knew that we were going to raise the full amount that was going to be able to get the product to market, because like we didn't want to go and start spending money and then be able to like then have to like go back and be like, oh, we didn't raise the rest of the money and then end up losing the money. So we took a lot of sacrifices, and I will admit it was very hard, but like I said, we just kept going and we were very passionate about it. I think that's also why we worked like 18 hours a day, 17 hours a day, because we wanted everyone to see how passionate we were working on it. It's not like we were just sitting around not working that hard on something and then having our families be like, oh, like, what are you doing with your life or anything like that, because they knew how hard we were working on trying to get it to market. And also like time is one of the most important things, because like we didn't want to get to the point where it was going on for so long and then we couldn't do it anymore. But also we were worried about other competitor products popping out and getting to market faster than us. I think it's kind of funny, Raja and I think are the most competitive people that each other has ever met. So for us, it was like a race to get to market. And we were just trying to make sure that we were like the leading company in this space. So that way we could basically, no one could really compete with us. That was like the number one thing that was one of the biggest driving factors for us, I think, that helped us get to market as fast as we could.
Nice.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Comments, anything? All right, well, thank you so much, Ray, for guest speaking and for being an advisor. Everything was extremely helpful today. And thank you for all the teams who made the time to log in today. I hope that this was beneficial and you've learned a lot through this session. And I guess we will see you all next week, Monday in person. All right, so thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Everybody,
Thank you.
thank you.
You.
Bye.
Good day.